Hello, welcome back to Lady Love Said Reads. My name is Jessica, and in this video I'm sharing with you my January 2025 reading wrap-up. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. It's great to see you. I do read books that fall into one of two categories typically. On the one hand, I like the dark and twisted. On the other, I like cozy and whimsical. Because I do read some dark and twisted books, please make sure to check your trigger warnings before picking up any of the books that I talk about in this video. I don't share triggers because I think they're spoilery, but if you have any concerns, I recommend utilizing the app Storygraph. I read from a lot of different genres. The ones I most frequently read from are fantasy, mystery, thriller, horror, literary, nonfiction, and romance. I read from all age levels, from middle grade to adult. And I also just want to say that I break up my wrap-ups into separate filming sessions. So as we go along in this video, you are going to see outfit changes, lighting changes, angle changes. I'm sorry if that bothers you. That's just what is easiest for me in filming these kinds of videos. Let's go through January stats. In January, I read 10 books and 2,983 pages. I have laundry going. I'm sorry if you can hear that. My average rating was 3.7. I read 4 fantasy, 1 historical, 1 horror, 2 mystery, 1 nonfiction, and 1 thriller. Genre can overlap sometimes, so if those numbers are off, that's why. I read 4 adult and 6 young adult. 4 of them were standalones and 6 of them were in series. For goals, all right, so my first goal of reading 100 books, I have 10 out of 100 books read so far this year, 10 read in the month of January. For my shelves, where I'm wanting to read 10% more of my own shelves, I started the month at 41.6% read and ended the month at 41.7% read. My end goal is 51%, so a tiny bit of progress. 2 of the books were from my shelves and 1 of them was a reread, so that's why it didn't move the needle very far. None of them came from KU. I read 1 ebook, so I'm trying to read my ebook collection as well. I started the month at 13.3% and left the month at 13.4%, trying to get to 18% by the end of the year. 1 of the books was a reread. It was Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. For my book buying ban, I have to read 20 books from my own shelves before I can buy 1 book. And so I have read 1 book out of 20, and the 1 book was Darkly by Marisha Pessel. I haven't crocheted any of my book cover crochets yet because I have to get yarn. I just have not had a chance to get to the craft store and get yarn. I made some progress with my SAS list, so I reread Legendborn. My goal is to finish that trilogy this year. I started 1 new series. I finished a series. It wasn't on my SAS list to finish, but hey, I'm, celebrating it. I finished a series, and I worked on 1 series or made progress in another series. I had 2 TBR fails. I did not get to The Hobbit, and I did not get to Elantris. When I discuss the books in my wrap-ups, I play MASH, and MASH is a numbers game we used to play in the 90s, and it helps you predict your future, like what your job will be, what kind of house you'll have, so on and so forth. I break it up into 4 categories. 1 is house, and for house, I share which book I would want to be in the setting of. For romantic partner, I share, who my crush was in the book. Then I do 1 for family, and for that, I share from a book which family or friend group I'd want to be in, and then job, which job I'd want to have from the books that I pull. So I pull 4 books at a time, and I pick which category I would put those 4 books in. With this, in this wrap-up, I'll be able to do 2 rounds, and each round will have 1 wild card, and the wild card can be any of the 4. So let's draw the first round. The Brothers Hawthorne by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Nothing But Shadows by Cassandra, Clare, and Sarah Reese Brennan. The Disappearance of Astrid Bricard by Natasha Lester. The Whitechapel Fiend by Cassandra, Clare, and Maureen Johnson. And then the wild card, Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. The Disappearance of Astrid Bricard by Natasha Lester. This is an adult historical fiction. It is 454 pages and it was published in 2023. This is about fashion designers, and it's kind of a family saga in that it traces the lineage of Mishka, I think her name is. She is in World War II France and is a fashion designer. Then her daughter Astrid is a model and designer in New York City in 1970. And then Blythe is a designer in present day time. And it just traces this family's history. Having like an allergy attack right now, so sorry. So it's about this family and what they've had to do to survive. And it really addresses a lot of like sexism in the fashion industry. And how in fashion the men are seen as the serious designers and women are seen more as muses than serious designers. So it talks a lot about that. It talks a lot about addiction and family dynamics, motherhood, postpartum depression. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4.5 stars. For MASH, I picked setting. I would love to be in 1970s New York hanging out with these designers and artists. That sounds pretty cool. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I'm suddenly like so sick. Like I can't stop coughing and sneezing. It's an allergy attack, I think. Nothing But Shadows by Cassandra, Clare, and Sarah Reese Brennan. This is a young adult fantasy novella. It was 96 pages. And it was published in 2015. This is part of the Shadowhunters universe. I read a set of short stories in between the Infernal Devices trilogies and the Last Hours trilogy. And in Nothing But Shadows, we are following a particular character, who is the child. Oh my gosh. He's the child of a set of characters from the Infernal Devices trilogy, and he gets sent to the Shadowhunters Academy to learn about being a Shadowhunter, and he doesn't fit in and he gets bullied a lot and all of that. And it is kind of like his origin story. I think I did not love this story. I felt like it could have been a short story instead of a novella, and that it like really dragged. And it could have been cut down quite a bit. So I ended up giving this story 2 stars. For MASH, I picked Friend or Family Group because while this particular character is bullied, I would love to just be among the friend group that is in the Infernal Devices trilogy. And seeing as this character is a child of people within that group, that would put me in that group, if that makes sense. I am so sorry about the throat clearing and the coughing. I'm having some sort of an attack and I don't know what it is, so I apologize. I know that it's probably really annoying, but it's making it really difficult to talk. The Whitechapel Fiend by Cassandra, Clare, and Maureen Johnson. This was also a novella, and it was published in 2015. And was 98 pages long. And this one follows some characters from the Infernal Devices trilogy and their early family. And what is also happening in this is Jack the Ripper is in London, and the Shadowhunters think that Jack the Ripper is a demon, and so they're going after him. And this was a really fun short story. I liked seeing the immediate sort of results of what happened in the Infernal Devices, getting to kind of continue that story with those characters. And I gave this novella 4 stars. For MASH, I picked Crush or Love Interest, because anytime there is a Shadowhunter story in a MASH round, I'm gonna pick Magnus Bane. The Brothers Hawthorne by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is book 4 in the Inheritance Games trilogy. It's a young adult mystery thriller. It was published in 2023 and has 480 pages. This is also a completed series for me that I can check off my SAS list, which is awesome. This continues the story of the Inheritance Games after what wraps up in the 3rd book. And I think this is kind of an in-between book. It's a bridge book because the Inheritance Games trilogy, it should be a trilogy. The Inheritance Games really wraps up, the story arc wraps up with that third book. But Jennifer Lynn Barnes is coming out with a new series that's based on the events that happen in this fourth book. So this fourth book is like a bridge between the Inheritance Games and the up-and-coming series that she's writing and publishing. And I really liked this. I thought it had like some fun gothic vibes. It was from the perspective of Jameson and Grayson instead of Avery, and I liked getting to kind of live from the perspective of those brothers. I hope that in the future we get to see the other two brothers, Nash and Xavier. It surprised me how much I liked this book. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. For MASH, I picked Job. I would want to be one of their publicists. The wild card in this round was Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. This is an adult horror. It is 367 pages and was published in 2024. This is a haunted house story. It's told from the perspective of a little girl named Bella. And in Bella's room lives this ghost monster thing called Other Mommy. And Other Mommy is always asking Bella if she can go into Bella's heart. And basically it's the story of what happens with this monster. And I really did not enjoy this. The way that Josh Malerman gives us perspectives from other characters aside from Bella is that Bella pretends to be asleep. And then the other characters talk to her while she's asleep. And they talk to her as if she's another adult. And that just did not make sense to me. It didn't make any sense to me. It felt like a really cheap writer's trick. And this book would have been better if he had just told it from multiple points of view, including the parents, instead of just Bella's point of view. Like, come on. Josh Malerman is just not the writer for me. I've never liked a book that I have read by Josh Malerman. So with this book, I am done reading from Josh Malerman. I gave it 2 stars. For MASH, I picked Setting because I want to see what this monster is about. All right, let's go ahead and draw the next round and get this wrap up done and over with. Again, we'll have a 4 with a wild card. The Perfectionist Guide to Losing Control by Katherine Morgan Schafler. Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. Darkly by Marisha Pessel. The Ghostly Grounds, Murder and Breakfast by Sophie Love. And then the wild card this round is The Midnight Heir by Cassandra Clare and Sarah Reese Brennan. Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This is a young adult fantasy. It's about Bree, who gets admitted to college early. And once she arrives at the college, she discovers a secret society that focuses on a magic system around Arthurian legends. And she decides to pledge to be a part of this society. It's a lot more complex than that. It covers a lot of really important social concepts like racism, sexism, growing up, grief, all that stuff. And I loved it. This was a reread. It's part of my trilogy along that I'm doing and hosting along with my friend Jasper at Coffee and Cracked Spines. And we are reading one book from this trilogy a month until we finish it. So January was Legendborn, February will be Bloodmarked, and March will be Oathbound. Legendborn is 502 pages and was published in 2020. This also for me counted as a reread because I've read it before, and it counts as a series I'm working on and hoping to finish for my SAS list. I gave it 4 stars, and for MASH I picked Love Interest, Cell. The Perfectionist Guide to Losing Control by Katherine Morgan Schafler. This is adult nonfiction, and it's about how to manage being a perfectionist. I was surprised by this book because I thought going into it that it would be another book about how to get rid of your perfectionism, but it's actually about how to embrace your perfectionism in healthy ways. She breaks perfectionism up into maladaptive and adaptive perfectionism and gives advice on how to embrace your adaptive perfectionism and cope with or manage some of your more maladaptive tendencies. I found this book really helpful. My only complaint is that she doesn't touch on some topics like racism, sexism, systemic racism, I said that already, neurodivergence, and other things that impact perfectionism. And in the end, she has a little note that said that, yeah, I didn't cover every topic I could have with this. because it would have been too long. And my thought is just write the long book. It's okay to write a long book. Just write the book, and it would have been better and would have been more inclusive and been more useful for more people had she done that. I gave this book 4 stars. For MASH, I picked Job. The writer is a therapist, and that's a job I feel like I would enjoy. Darkly by Marisha Pessl. This is a young adult thriller bridging into horror. It's 399 pages and was published in 2024. This was the Lovestead buddy read book that I pulled from my shelves for January. Every other month I pull a book from my shelf or not every other month. Every month I pull a book from my shelf to read as a buddy read on my Discord, which is called the Lovestead. There's a link to join down below. It's free. And I rotate every other month with the more cozy and the more dark books. So even numbered months are the more cozy books. Odd numbered months are the darker books. That was a clumsy way of explaining it, but there you go. So Darkly is a dark book, and it is about this game maker named Louisiana Veda who makes these games that are like role-playing games, and they're very immersive, but they're also very dark and scary. And one of them was even banned because people were dying when they were playing it. Louisiana Veda has died, but the people running her estate are hosting an internship program. And the main character, Dia, applies for the internship program and gets in. So she goes to the Darkly estate in London, and she's there with these other interns. And the internship is not what they think it's going to be. It's actually something way more twisted and scary. And I absolutely loved this book. I love the brain of Marisha Pessl. I love her vibes. It's gothic, it's spooky, it's terrifying at parts. The imagery in certain parts of this book was downright terrifying. And the writing was lush and beautiful. The characters were not the best, I don't think. I don't think her characters in her young adult novels are the best or the most developed characters. I think that is a weak point with Marisha Pessl's young adult novels, is the characters feel a little underdeveloped. And I'd say that that would be probably the weakest part of this book. But otherwise, I absolutely love this. I love Marisha Pessl. I just love her brain so much. I gave the book 4.5 stars, I believe. Yeah, 4.5 stars. For MASH, I picked Friend Group. I would love to hang out with these interns, if nothing else, to just pick their brains a little bit, because they're all such interesting people with such interesting backstories, even if they're not necessarily good people, you know what I mean? The Ghostly Grounds, Murder and Breakfast by Sophie Love. This is book 1 in the Canine Casper Cozy Mystery series. I read this for the Killing Time with Cozies scavenger hunt prompt. So there were 2. One was a book with the blue on the cover, which this does have blue. And 2 is a book that's like new in some way for the new year. So new author, new series or whatever. And this was both a new author and a new series for me. So I was able to knock off both scavenger hunt prompts with one book. Yay. This is about, I forget the main character's name, but she inherits an estate. It's like a seaside estate, and she's going to turn it into a bed and breakfast. And it is supposedly is haunted. So there's this ghost hunter that's there who apparently catches something on camera. And so now all these other ghost hunters want to come and try to debunk the footage and all of that. And someone ends up being unalived in this really unique way. I've never read an unaliving quite like this before. It was very unique. And I really enjoyed this. This is one where the actual unaliving doesn't happen until after the halfway point. And so cozy mystery readers often don't like that. They prefer that the murder happens early on, so the rest of the book is focused on solving it. But I feel like in this book it worked okay because the buildup was so lovely and really established the world super nicely, and it just made the rest of the book that much more enjoyable, because it kind of gradually led up to the unaliving and then the mystery. The Midnight Heir by Cassandra, Clare, and Sarah Reese Brennan. This is a young adult fantasy short story. It's like 60 pages and it was published in 2013. And this one, the main point of view is Magnus Bane. And Magnus Bane is out and about and stumbles across a character who is the son of a couple in the Infernal Devices. It's the same character from Nothing But Shadows. So the same character that got really bullied in school and all of that. And when Magnus finds him, he is like blackout drunk. Like, he's so drunk. So Magnus takes him home to his parents and has a conversation with them. And then he goes to visit a different character from the Infernal Devices who wants to hire Magnus to unalive a bunch of shadow hunters. And we meet that character's daughter. So it feels like a little bit more setup for the upcoming trilogy, which is The Last Hours. And it worked well as a short story. I can understand why it exists and how it connects everything together, and I think it's a good like bridge from these short stories into The Last Hours, but it wasn't anything like to write home about either. It didn't like blow my mind or make me feel anything particular. So I gave it 3 stars. For MASH, I picked Love Interest because Magnus Bane, of course. So that is my January wrap up. Have you read any of these books? Do you plan to read any of these books? Let me know your thoughts down below. Tell me in the comments what your favorite book from January was. And if you just want to leave me an emoji to let me know that you're here, go ahead and leave me a chess piece emoji for Darkly, which was my favorite book of the month. And until next time, make sure that you continue to read good books, drink good coffee, take care of yourselves and each other. Bye.